What's up, amigos? Coming to Jaime here today. Today we're gonna do a community list for Maelstrom, both in standard and also premium as well. So we got the support revealed about a month ago now, and so I just wanted to share some cool ideas that the community Discord that I made, the Armada, and if you haven't joined in, feel free to join in, has actually come up with, so that way you guys can get a chance to experiment and also just adjust to your metagame as well. So let's get right into it. So I've become an official Metafy coach for Cardfight Vanguard, and so if you ever want to get one-on-one time with me to help your skill level, go ahead and book a session with me. I can help with premium format, standard, or even clans like Aquaforce and many others, and even YouTube as well. I just want to help fellow amigos and make an impact within the community itself. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message too. You can use the link down below in the description to book your session as well. So we're going to start out with standard, and here's a list from MarineWilliams. And so thanks again, amigo, for able to share this as well. And so at the bottom right, you can see the right line. It's pretty cool if you think about it. So this is a bit different. So it's using Rancor Chain as a grade 1, and we're also using Tidal Assault as a grade 2. So a couple reasons for this. So you can see that we're playing a more amount of orders in this build, and we're not playing Judgment Maelstrom, but we're playing Spiritual Body Condensations. We're playing Nectar as well. So Rancor Chain helps us get that extra +2 cards and then just discard an order so we can dig deeper for combo pieces. And so with Theo, you can search for the Judgment Maelstrom, but again, you're not playing this in this build, and so you might as well take advantage of Rancor Chain. With Tidal Assault, here's where it's really cool. So remember the skill for Maelstrom. It's able to pull out a card from the Soul and give it a restanding ability for the first attack. So Tidal Assault will be in the Soul when you ride grade 3. And so you can pull out Tidal Assault, he'll gain the red tax. So Tidal Assault with his skill on top of that will do 3 attacks that turn by himself. So you have a solid 4 attack turn just by having Tidal Assault every single turn. Do keep in mind that each restand from Maelstrom's skill and then also Tidal skill will be a counterblast. So you are using 2 counterblasts per turn if you do this every single turn, for example. So keep in mind with that. But in this case, it really opens up your main deck. You don't have any extra Tidal Assaults, as you can see. You're always going to have the 1 Tidal Assault because at the end of the turn, it's going to go back into Soul. And so I think it's a really neat idea because it helps you, 1, guarantee to see the Tidal Assault. 2, you just need to run 1 technically because there's nothing that disrupts in standard to be able to remove it during your turn, so you can keep it safe at the end of your turn when it goes back into Soul. So I think it's a really neat idea, something to worth exploring, and it just opens the main deck a little bit more with more room. So the next couple things, obviously we see Inlet Pulse still making an impact in a lot of stoicheia decks as we've seen it. No surprise there, but we're seeing 4 prison roaming dragons. And so as Zorga players, we're familiar that whether we play Alchemagic or just play an order, these dragons can revive themselves. We've seen these in Flagberg decks as well to provide some early game. But what's really cool too is that most of the time that we use them in decks outside of Zorga, Flagberg for example, and now Maelstrom, that we revive them and give them the plus 10k. So you could pick one, either the 10k or the crit. You want to do the 10k so that way they're 15k beaters that you can just rely on. And there's the argument where like Algos actually needed to be the 4th battle more to even become a 15k attacker. This is just 15k in general when it's revived, when you play an order just in general. And you're going to be playing cards like Spiritual Body Condensation and Nectar. And that's where Nectar also comes into play, where you have this Tidal Assault that's going to attack 3 times, right? And so Nectar can give it power. So your Tidal Assault will be getting bigger. Remember, it's 5k for every 5 cards in the drop zone, which is not a problem through Maelstrom to get +5, +10k. But once you hit +15, that's when you get the additional crit as well. And so it can be very lethal. And if your opponent's still at 4 damage, that Tidal attack, literally for those first couple attacks, will be lethal before your Vanguard even attacks them, which is really phenomenal. So it's a great idea. And as we can see, we still play other cards such as Wheel Assault to be able to promote more attacks with the use of a Soul Blast 1. That's where you can revive Prison Dragons. You can revive multiple copies where you can have Tidal Assault either in front of Wheel Assault or maybe by itself, if it's big enough by itself. And then you have a Prison Dragon in the mix in the front row. And then you have a second one just chilling in the back row. So you can take advantage of multi-attack with 2 Prison Dragons with Tidal Assault, and then Wheel Assault really just helping that like swapping. You can also use other cards to help with your power, such as the Luca. That's the Stoicheia grade 2 Fox. We've seen it where it retires itself to give plus 10k. Do that to title, especially early on where Nectar may not give it as much power. It makes it very solid in that case too. And if you already have the crit, it's another 10k that your opponent has to deal, which makes it even harder for them to guard as well. And we're also playing the new grade 1. So this is like power to the column that it's in. So you can actually put this behind Tidal Assault and it'll give power to Tidal Assault those 4 battles or more. I think it's the restriction. So you can really play around where those numbers make sense. So he's playing 2 of those copies. You could adjust that as well. He's also playing the grade 2 that goes into Sol and then counter charges after you've done either Alchemy Magic or if you've done 5 battles or more. So that'll give you the ability to counter charge as well. And I think that's also neat because you can pull them out with Spiritual Body Condensation, and it technically goes into Soul, and then Spiritual Body Condensation can grab it out, so it like cancels out in that sense. And again, with Maelstrom, with Tidal Assault's going to keep going back into Soul, so you'll have something for Maelstrom to constantly pull out anyway, so your Soul is still kind of available that you can take advantage. And of course, with the triggers, nothing different. PGs, you have the Blitz Order. You are a grade 3 deck, so the Blitz Orders gonna be live no matter what. I've learned that by accidentally playing in Seraph Snow when you play the grade 4. Not a good time. But in this deck, it makes sense, and there's still some grade 4 decks coming around. And then we saw the restriction with Magnolia, also with the Inlet as well. So Inlet is seeing some play for real, but I just wanted to share this standard build. So I'm gonna go switching into premium right now. So now into premium, and this I'm gonna cover 2 lists. This is Vanguard Potential as well, so you can check out his channel. He's an up-and-coming channel. What's really neat is that in G era, Limit Break era, we have a lot of Maelstrom support that we can still look back and kind of like just mess with. And this is what this deck does, is that you have the Loreley Maelstrom, which is basically a break stride from the G era that you can make Blue Storm units attackers like Restanders. You have the V-Series copies of like Maelstrom OG, you have Glory Maelstrom, so you have these Maelstrom copies that you really take advantage of. And so you can start tweaking with the overdress support, like he's playing a few Agos to help with the consistency. So if you have the ability to write it, you can actually check the top 7 for an Aqua Force unit or a Tier Dragon, and in this case, it's a whole Aqua Force, so it's really great. But you can see, you can start thinking in your brain what to use. And of course, there's strides that you can use, such as like the Engulf, that can get not only guard restriction, but it also gains a crit. And so you have crit pressure from your Vanguard on top of that. So it's just bouncing those ideas, and you can tweak it to your preference. Remember, you have access to Faragas as well. So if you haven't touched Maelstrom in a few years, you have Faragas that you can also fall back to. Wow. And so I'm going to switch gears a little bit into another premium list. This list is a courtesy from MaleficZero, so thank you again as well. What I really like about this list is a couple things, actually. So the grade 2 slots, as you can see, you have 4 copies of Elder Moss, you have 4 copies of Gabreg, and 4 copies of Agos. So all the grade 2s are 10k base. So in Aqua Force, we are an Excel deck in Premium and V Premium. So we typically have 9k grade 2s, but all these are 10k, so that's another plus in my eyes. Elder Moss is an old G-era support card that can actually attack from the back row. And that's important because of Gabreg. Gabreg is a Stoicheia unit that was seen in Magnolia in standard playing because it has guard restriction. And so you can have them in the same column and still trigger Gabreg's ability when Elder Moss attacks. So that way when Gabreg attacks, it could be the last battle after your Vanguard attacks. And so you could have this pressure with Engulf Maelstrom and still have some type of guard restriction, not only from the Vanguard, but also from Gabreg as well. So you can see like, wow, okay, this makes it a lot harder for the opponent to guard, and it also gets power too. So it's just very useful. You could stack triggers, really take advantage of that. And remember, Elder Moss also puts cards into the store, specifically Maelstrom, so you can have Glory and also reverse Maelstroms be active as soon as you write to grade 3. So if your opponent's still like at grade 2, for example, you have full power Glory, or you have full power reverse Maelstrom. So those are some power plays you can do, but you could always fall back to the original Maelstrom and do your restand shenanigans. So very solid. What's really cool is the Algos Nicholas engine too, and so this what makes Algos from overdress a little more valuable in my eyes, especially since he's playing the Nicholas. This grade 1, when it's placed onto Vanguard Circle or Rearguard Circle, you can check the top 7 for an algos, and it searched for the same algos, which is really nice. And then when you ride algos, you can guarantee that he's your Vanguard. And so that way, when you ride to grade 3, you can search for the top 7 to get another piece that you can work with. So you can see you +1 with potentially for Nicholas, and then when you ride to grade 3, you plus another card on top of that. So, and you have the Excel to circle, because we're playing the Excel Maelstroms in this case. So you're going to get another card too. So you're building an advantage as you're going up, gaining those key pieces, such as like Eldermas if you haven't seen it, a Gabrag if you haven't seen it. And if your first stride has to be Gembolt, you can search the top 7 on Gembolt. So you can really start building your field, so that way your second stride or third stride would be the Maelstrom strides, for example. And you still fall back to Valeos, you still fall back to Faragas, you have Lambros to... so I think this deck is really something to consider, and he does play even the Barragios and some Wheel Assaults, so there's some consistency there on getting your grade 3s, also getting some more attacks with the Wheel Assaults. You can technically have probably multiple Gabrags too, I think. I've never really thought about that. I'm just thinking about it right now, because we're XL2, and if we're rewriting over time, we're going to have a massive field, so we're going to have a surplus of units if they're not retired, especially with Gembolt helping us with advantage too. And that's for the community list that I actually wanted to share with you guys. Really cool content, really neat ideas too. And, let me know if you guys are trying some interesting builds too. I know it's been like a month since the reveals. What are you guys doing for standard? What are you guys doing for premium? And so I'm just really curious on like what direction you're taking to. So it's really fun to see the community being able to create these lists too. Again, if you haven't joined the Armada Discord server that I have, you can click on the link below and actually hop into the fun. There's a lot of talks with different decks, so it's not just Aquaforce, but it is definitely Aquaforce fun, for example, too. And then if you also want to improve on your skill level, especially since we have BCS or Team Link and also Bro announced for this year, I could definitely help out with Metafy Coaching as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to message me as well. And so without further ado, on to the next one, amigos.